Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining All Things Business. Thank you for this episode. This episode 4, podcast 4. And we want to thank you. We're just kind of go over some things, and we're glad to have Mr. Don Holbrook with us today. Don Holbrook is an author. He's also an editor. He also does screenplay. And we want to thank him. We want to thank all our listeners out there. We want to thank people over there in Germany, in Pakistan, also in Italy, as well as joining us tonight, UK. Oh, Mexico. Good evening, Mexico, and also up in Canada and United States. Well, listen, we want to thank you all for joining. Matter of fact, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We thank you so much for your time. So with that, let's get right into it. Don Holbrook, tell everybody, how did we meet a little bit? Tell everybody how we met, and then we're going to talk about how you became an author and a
We met on a bus on a field trip in first grade with our boys, and we were the only men on the bus, and everybody else were all these hot women that didn't have nothing else to do. That was the truth. That's the truth.
It was a private school, guys, and a lot of guys, especially men, were doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, that kind of thing. And the women, did the things and, high-end stuff. Well, anyway, so we're glad for that. So tell us, how did you get into being an author, a screenplay writer, and author, editing?
I was an economic development economist for 25, 30 years. And I did a lot of speeches and traveled the world and talked about the economy and how people could rebuild economies. In 2000, I got really bored with it. I was kind of at the top of my game, and I just said, I'm done. I'm going to do something I want to do. I'm going to write books. And everybody thought I was nuts. Said, what, you're going to quit? You're at the top of your game. I said, I know, but this is the
best time to quit, right?
It's no fun. Yeah, I mean, you quit when you're at the top, right? Nobody can argue.
Well, not only that, it sounded like you got bored to the point, like, I want to try something different. I conquered this. Let me move on to the next.
Yeah, it was boring.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing, how did you get into that business and marketing yourself in the beginning?
What I did to get off the ground was I started with nonfiction, and I talked about what I knew, which is what I did for 30 years, and how to help people rebuild their economies. And I went around the country and the world talking about that and doing keynotes. And I did about 2,000 or 3,000 speeches in, 5 or 10 years. And then I would sell a book related to the topic at each one of those things, and people would buy the books. And then I got to where I was a big enough demand that I could demand that they buy everybody in the audience a book ahead of time, and they would do that as part of the pay.
Okay.
And then that just kicked off my book career.
So what you said, you made sure that whoever brought you in not only paid your fee for talking, but also included a book inside of each one coming, so they walk away at least one of your books.
Yeah, and it didn't start out that way. I mean, they negotiated for it. They wanted me to come and set up stuff in the back of the room and do all that salesy stuff. And I said, I ain't gonna do that. I don't have time. Yeah. I mean, I gotta be talking to your audience. So why don't you buy everybody a book, put it on their seat, and then they can come have me sign it in the back, and I'll talk to them. And they kind of liked that. So after the first person did it out, I kind of used that as a precedent and said, well, Don did it down in Austin, and then everybody started doing it, and it became a norm. But everybody said you can't do that. Nobody will do that, but they did, and I didn't, by the way, reduce my speaking fee. So
what would you say? What's the name of your first book that you came out with?
The Little Black Book of Economic Development. It was kind of an expose on what you don't know about how they do all these corporate deals around the world and how much the government gives to incentivize jobs and how they do it, how they justify it.
Wow. What year was that when you came out that book?
2003 or 4, I want to say.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay.
It took me a few years to write it, and then I started speaking about it, and then I wrote the next book, and then the next one, and I just kept doing that for.
Let's take it step by step. So that went out then. What was the second book that you came out? When was that?
Well, then I got really big britches because my first book was a bestseller. And I helped.
A bestseller?
Yeah, it was a bestseller. So it sold.
You guys hear this? It was a bestseller. How many books did it sell?
In nonfiction, about 25,000 is considered a bestseller, and that book sold about 38. So then I got picked up by Random House as an author, and I wrote a book for them called Who Moved My Smokestack, all about automation and how jobs were being lost. And that book was a huge success. That book sold 236 copies, and I made $500 for the year. And that,
what year was that?
Like 2006 or 7.
Uh-huh.
And that I almost quit writing because I had this huge publisher behind me, and it was a huge flop.
Yeah, well, they're a big house. Random's a real big house. So the book was a flop, and it discouraged you. So how did you feel after the book was a flop? Tell us about how you dealt with that.
I almost quit. I was like,
Almost.
I'm not as good as I thought I was.
Folks, let this be a lesson to you out in the audience around the world. Listen, almost, but keep going. The first book of a lot of people was a flop. I mean, don't let that discourage you. Let that encourage you to keep going. So you kept going after the book was a flop, after the big company came and picked you up.
And then
what's your next book?
Then this orange-haired man came on the Hollywood scene called Donald J. Trump and had this show called The Apprentice, and he wrote a book called The Art of the Deal.
Yes.
And I decided to make fun of it. So I wrote The Art of the Deal Today, which came out in 2008 when the economy crashed. And it was all about how to do a deal using some of his principles in a new economy that all the rules had just changed overnight.
Yeah.
So I did that book, and it was a huge success. Third book was a huge success because I was making fun. I wasn't using his words. I was talking about his principles.
Yeah.
And how they didn't apply anymore because the economy had flip-flopped.
Okay.
So I said, well, here's how you do it now. Here's how you take what he said and use it now. And The Art of the Deal Today became another big hit. And of course, I got to meet him about a year later in an elevator at a keynote, and he commented on. He said, I made you. I said, well, you helped me.
Yeah. So how many copies did that sell? Did that sell quite a few? You have no idea.
Bestseller. It was over 30,000.
Okay, great. So now that book encouraged you. So what kind of things you said that changed between the time he said that and you poked fun? What was the difference as far as what made it popular? What'd you say?
I was real about what was really going on around people in the world. So this was about economy just crashed. Mm-hmm. I'd been on Fox News and talked about how the economy was going to crash, and everybody else said it wasn't. So I was recognized on Fox News for being one of the first people to say the big banks ain't telling you the truth. The economy's going to crash.
They never tell you.
You better be ready.
Yeah, like we're going through today.
Three other economists are on there with me. We were on Good Morning, whatever the thing is.
Good Morning,
business brief in the morning.
Yeah,
they're very famous. Neil and all those guys. Anyways, all three of them said we were going to have a what's the word they use? A kind of a persnickety economy, right? Yeah. And I kind of laughed, and they kind of zeroed in on me, and I said, "Really? You think we're going to have a persnickety?" I said, "We're going to get our butts kicked. The economy is going in the toilet. You all sold your mortgages to some little 2,000 square foot house in Iceland, and it's been sold 50 times over, and we're going to go under."
Derivatives.
Yeah, and I called it the way it was, and they said, "Really, you think so?" I said, "Yeah, we're going for it." Yeah. And I said, you better know what you're doing in this one.
Well, I found out through the years, ladies and gentlemen, being investments in real estate and other avenues and other companies and business investments, most economies got it all wrong. 90% of them, I'm telling you right now, they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, even our U.S. government have over 900 economists on staff, on payroll, and they always get it wrong. But now, they never get down, let me finish, they never get down to the local person and find out what they got to say. They're sitting in their ivory towers looking at the world from a different, skewed perception. Go ahead.
Well, I love you, but I would beg to disagree with you. They know that they're wrong.
Of course they do.
They're being paid to tell you something different.
Of course.
Because you got to remember, they're singing for their supper.
Well, see, remember now, we're saying the same thing.
I know.
They're telling you a lie.
They're telling you
but they're getting paid to tell you the lie.
But they know they're lying. And they know they're lying.
Of course they do.
So that's what I said on Fox News. I said, wait a minute, you guys work for Morgan Stanley and all these people. Y'all are singing for your supper. I realize you can't tell these people the truth, but I don't have anybody paying me like that. I can tell you the truth. It's going down.
And that's why on this channel we tell you the truth, because whether you want to realize it or not, the truth is the truth. You can hide your head in the sand, but I'm telling you, that's why this channel is called All Things Business, because it covers a multitude of truisms. Now, whether you want to face them or not, or deal with them or not, or get some answers or not, it's totally up to you. But I learned a long time ago is the best policy is to be open with people, honest with people, tell them the truth, let them go figure out. Don't trust me. Go research it yourself. Don't trust. Go research it, and you'll find out we're saying the same thing. So let me ask you a question. What have you done in the past as with all the accolades you have to stand out from a crowd in your marketplace?
Well, in my industry, in economic development, they have a thing called Russian Generals, which means you got all these awards and accolades. I have every award they've ever given out. So hardly anybody has ever won every award. So I've got everything. Mm-hmm. So I've swept the conference. Okay. Mm-hmm. I've won several awards for being an author. My last book was out, Ghost, which you talked about last time. That one won 4 National Book Awards last year, Best Historic Book. It also won Best Audio Book of the Year. So I've won a lot of awards, things like that. I'm a lifetime fellow member of the International Economic Development Council because of my lifetime achievements. I've just been really known for telling the truth bluntly about what's going to happen.
With all your accolades, you would say this makes you unique in your industry. Would you say that?
I think I'm recognized for being unique, or the word they usually use is either maverick. Here's how you know you're old. When they introduce you and say, this is one of our most maverick thinkers, which really means I'm a rogue. I don't stick to the schedule that everybody else is singing from, because everybody's got an agenda that they're being paid to say certain things.
Of course.
I'm independent. I'm one of the few.
I want people out there to know a lot of these guys, like you said, are paid to a certain narrative to throw you off. Mm-hmm. And they know in their heart it's not true, but they're getting paid to do this. So I appreciate that honesty. Let me ask you a question. What's some of the biggest challenges you had facing early stages in your business as you start becoming a writer, an author, and a screenplay? What was some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Money, managing money.
You
have, you're in your own business. It's
self-employed.
Self-employed. I mean, you're your own employer, and you got to invest in yourself. If you're afraid to invest in yourself, who else is going to do it?
That's true.
You should be your best champion. And if you're afraid, take a risk on yourself. Nobody else is going to take a flyer on you. So I learned that really early on. You got to have some money set aside to promote yourself, to build your book, to do it right. It takes about $30,000 to put a good book out. The time you pay everybody, and then you don't know if you're gonna make that back. So you got to risk it, just like any business. Take a risk and hope that it comes back, and then you put it away again and do it the next book.
Ladies and gentlemen around the world, every entrepreneur I've had on this challenge always talk about risk, and but it's a calculated risk. We all have to invest in our future, invest in our sites, invest in what we believe in. And 30,000 may sound like it could be 300, it could be 3,000 for somebody, 30,000, 300,000. But the whole idea, you have to believe in yourself, invest in yourself, put your money where your mouth is, and work it every day. And when you become an entrepreneur, it's all about you. It stands on you. You're it. Tag, you're it. Let me ask you this question: what were some of the unexpected hurdles that you had to run into as you start becoming and growing up the ladder of who you are today with all your accolades?
Recognizing all your weaknesses. I am not a great writer. I'm a good storyteller. But I have great editors around me that are great at helping me shape my words to where they make a lot of sense and they flow and they have an arc. And I hire great professionals that are really good at what they do. But I also have to meter that with the fact that you understand that editors are not writers because they can't write, but they can edit.
Yeah.
And so you can't mix the two. You can't expect them to become a writer and help you write some of the words you messed up. You got to own that yourself. So you got to own your weaknesses, and you got to get better. Every time we bring out a new book, if you ask an author, what book should I read? We're going to tell you our latest book. You know why? Because we've improved from book to book to book to book. And it's always our best work is the most recent.
Yeah, that's true.
You look at my first book, Al, I'd be embarrassed for you to read it because it's 25 books ago. And I've written millions of words since then. It's my books today. I look at that book and I just shake my head and go, oh my God, how did that get to be a bestseller?
Let me ask you this, Don. As a friend, I've seen your journey through the years our kids went to high school together, the Meadows here, private school in Vegas. How would you inspire an entrepreneur saying, you know what, I want to be a writer. I want to be like Don Holbrook. What would you say to inspire them along their journey?
Network with other people that are writers. Join the Writers Society here in Nevada. Join the national one. Go get on. Nowadays, they got all these forums and blogs. Get on those. Don't be afraid to ask people questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for opinions. You're going to get a lot that are negative, but you know what? You learn from that. Yeah. You don't have to adapt it. You can read it and listen to it and say, well, that's not quite me, but I did pick up a pearl there.
Yeah.
And apply it.
Yeah, there you go. You can apply it. Pick up, and you got to keep learning. What would you say is a turning point for your career? Give me an idea of what might have been one or two things that might have turned your career to where it's at today.
I mean, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it was my very first #1 bestseller. And it was a nonfiction bestseller called The Next America. It was all about what's going to happen in this country 10 years forward. And we're living through it. I was pretty accurate, I'll tell you that. If you read it today, it was in 2014. We've lived through it. And I predicted the rise of a person like Donald Trump, apolitical, drain in the swamp kind of guys, that America was ready for that. We're tired of all the politics. And sure, I didn't know it was going to be Trump, but he came along. And there it was, and it fit right into the narrative of my book.
Give our artists the name of the book one more time.
It's called The Next America.
The Next America by Don Holbrook. Okay. Question: how do you stay motivated when you don't feel like doing things? I know we talk a lot of times, you know, days you want to write, you don't feel like writing, or just you weren't inspired or didn't come to you. How do you deal with that?
I don't push myself.
Okay.
And you know me, so you know this, I'm kind of a recluse. If I go into a mood where I want to watch classic movies for a whole day, watch John Wayne, whatever, I'll sit and watch classic movies all day and just turn everything off and not try to be out being social. And then there are days when I need my friends. So I'll say, let's go have Eggs Benedict, man. Yeah. Let's go out to Schnooze Cafe or whatever and have Eggs Benedict.
That's here in Vegas, by the way.
Yeah, and just get together and have coffee and fellowship with my friends. I don't have a ton of friends, but I have several good friends that I stay close to, maybe 5 or 6 in the whole world, and only 2 in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then that's how your friends keep you motivated, because they
don't just say 2 in Vegas, because some of your friends in Vegas are probably watching right now.
Well, I mean, I have 2 very, very close friends. Okay, 2 of my really good friends passed away, as you know, in the last couple of years. So, but I mean, I have a little what we call the Musketeers, you know.
Yeah.
And then I've got lots of friends and acquaintances, but I mean close friends, and you know, I get a lot of motivation from my friends. I look at other people's work, and I talk to a lot of writers on the phone a lot. I have a lot of colleagues that are friends, and we'll call and inspire each other. Let
me ask you this: so when you're going through a slump in writing, what do you do to break that slump as a writer?
You know, I don't never know. I mean, it's some idea will come along. Like I got into that classic movie thing. You know this about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
When I gave you that channel to watch it.
Yeah. And I started watching a bunch of classic movies, and I was watching a bunch of World War II movies, and I thought, what if all that didn't work the way it worked? What if we just changed the narrative and said, everything that worked well for the United States in World War II, what if I took that away from them? What would happen? And of course, the war totally changed, right? And then I wrote the first act, which is about 125 pages, of a World War II alternative history of us losing Midway, getting our butt kicked even worse at Pearl Harbor, the Japanese invading the West Coast, and Germany not declaring war on us.
So when you watch this class, did that motivate you to break that writing cramp or slow to the end?
Because I said, what if none of that happened? What if Patton never got to go chase?
Okay, I love Patton. My billionaire mentor loves Patton.
Imagine him not being able to do what he does, which is charge, right? And him sitting offshore, being told by the president of the United States, you can't go ashore.
All right. Now, so when you watch it, what did that do for you to get you out to break that snap?
I was curious as to what would happen. So I started researching.
Okay, you researched it, and then what happened?
I took every outcome in World War II that was positive for us and made it a negative.
Okay.
And I said, now what would happen if I did that? And then I went and asked AI a whole bunch of questions about, what do you think would happen if we did this? And it would tell me, well, probably we wouldn't have went into Europe, or we wouldn't have went into Africa. They would have got the oil. They would have had oil. That changes the whole European theater.
I got that part, but what did that do for you to break your non-writing?
It made me curious.
Okay, made you curious.
I was curious.
And then with that curiosity made you say, okay, now I want to sit down and start writing.
And from my perspective, how would I write? You know, imagine, I love characters. I love Patton, like you. Imagine Patton sitting off the shore of North Africa. Monty's getting his butt kicked by Rommel, and he can't go ashore. And Roosevelt says that we haven't declared war on Germany. You can't go ashore. I don't care what you politicians think.
Yeah.
I'm going to go kick those Germans out. And he wasn't allowed.
Yeah. Let me ask the question another way. What did that do to make you snap your downward thinking, I can't write, to make you want to go write, continue with your writing?
Remember, I wasn't writing that book. I was writing another book.
Well, I know, but I'm saying
I set it down.
What I'm saying is sometimes as a writer, we go through that, because I know sometimes for me, I can get up 3 a.m, gotta say, don't write this down. And then 3 or 4 days I go dry and I can't write to save my life. There's nothing I can write. And all of a sudden I could be somewhere else, like start writing. And so I'm saying, what do you do to break it? Okay.
I was just interested in a new topic.
Okay.
And I followed that interest versus forcing myself to just regurgitate words.
Yeah.
I can write words, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Because I was trying to get to what did you do to break what did you do to break that cycle? I
set the other one aside.
Okay.
I said, okay, I'm bored with this right now. Let's go work on something totally new.
All right. Let me ask you this question for our audience. One of the questions the audience gave me earlier is, what is your personal definition of success, and how do you measure it in your business?
Wow. I think your success is measured by happiness and being fulfilled and feeling appreciated and feeling that your audience hears you. I'll tell you, for writers, I don't care what anybody says about authors and stuff. I don't care how big they are. I've learned this from all of them. They all read their book reviews, good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. They love to read their book reviews. So we get inspired, whether it's a bad review or a good review. We get inspired by that because it means you read my book. Mm-hmm. And true. I feel heard. Even if you don't agree with me, yeah. I feel like you heard me.
You heard me.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And it's okay to disagree. But at least you read it.
And it's a huge feeling of accomplishment to know that people are actually, to have that argument, they have to have read your book.
Yeah. Like you folks, I love you guys because you go to my channel. You might have saw one item on the channel. Look at 4 or 5 or more. It'll help you out a little bit. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this question. What's a typical day in the life of Don Holbrook? Give our audience around the world. Hey, I want to thank you folks up there that's joining in from Hawaii today, as well as those folks in the United States of America and all our friends in Mexico. What else? Thank you. Let's go speak some Spanish.
But coffee. First thing in the morning. Coffee.
Okay, coffee.
Gotta have coffee. That's my routine. I love good coffee. It has to be good coffee. And then I respond to all my messages in the morning. You know, it takes me an hour or two to do all that. But I have coffee during that, and then I start thinking about what I'm going to do the rest of the day. And
you're a big breakfast person, I know.
I am. I like a good breakfast, but I'm not a good cook, so I have to usually figure out if I'm going to go out or I'll just have a protein bar and then wait for when I'm going to see a friend or something.
Yeah. Hey, I want to thank Sharon out there in Florida for tuning in. Kathleen Williams up in Sacramento, California. Thank you, sir. Freddie Sherman in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you so much, Sharon. Also, we want to thank, Doug, who is that? Somebody in Osaka, Japan. Thank you for tuning in. So let me ask you this question. How do you handle burnout? Because I think you kind of talked about that a little bit. You kind of walk away for a couple of days. How do you handle burnout?
I've tried a lot of different things. I don't have a ton of burnout. I have times where I just don't feel like writing.
Yes.
But, you know, a few years ago when I was trying to figure the ending out for this book, The Ninth Templar, it's coming out at Christmas, everybody felt like I was done. It was good enough. And I didn't. I felt like the ending was just not, it's not a great ending. You got a great book, but not a great ending. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to go on a sabbatical for 30 days. And I went to Ohio and hit with my friends in Ohio, Bill and Kim Johnson, and my friend Roger, who's a total cut-up class clown comedian from our class. And I was going to go out there and spend 30 days with my really best buddies out there and just get away from everybody and write. And I went out there and we had we started a whole tradition about going to all these diners and dives and all these places.
Oh, yeah.
And, I got back and one of my publishers and editors, they had cigars with me. And they said, "What'd you get done?" I said, "I didn't write a damn thing." I had so much fun with my buddies that I didn't write anything.
And sometimes that's good because it wipes your slate clean and you like have fun. A lot of times people don't have fun. And when you have fun, now you can walk back into the situation with answers, directions, and guidance and how to write, what writing, because something happened because you took time to step away. You said a key thing, step away. Sometimes, folks, you got to step away from your situation today, currently, to step back, give it to God, and then step back into it later. I used to say when I would, in my network marketing business, I used to walk out to the corner of the curve and open the door and I walk out to the corner and curve and I say, "You're fired." And I turn around and walk back in and say, "You're rehired." And I go back at it again. So sometimes it's good to fire yourself, to take a break from it. You can't keep going all the time. You can't keep going. You got to slow down and take a little break. Mm-hmm. So we talked about this. So you handle burnout by getting with your friends when you went to out to Ohio.
And I turned it into tradition. So now for like the last 7 years, I go out there at least once or twice a year, hang out with my friends. My friends, Bill and Kim Johnson, are kind enough to let me stay with them. I hide there at their place, but it's,
Okay. But they're on the channel, Bill and Kim. Tell them.
Bill and Kim Johnson in Dayton, Ohio, and my friend Roger. So I go hang out with all them and my high school buddies. And what happened is that we turned it into kind of a tradition. And then I was just back for the class reunion thing.
Wait, Kim just said something. You left your socks here. Okay, go ahead.
Probably. I leave lots of it. But every time I come home from Kim and Bill's, it's funny because I come home with a new idea of something I need in my house because they got all these, things with fancy cooking stuff. Yeah. Anyways, I was back there this last time and somebody said, "Where are you staying, man?" I said, "I'm staying at Johnson Manor." Everybody started trying to find Johnson Manor in the hotel list, right? For the hotels. And I said, "Oh, no, it's an exclusive bougie place. You got to be personal invitation to stay there."
Wow. Let me ask you this. What books or podcasts or resources have you significantly impacted your life and your career, besides mine?
I have a good friend, Mike Young, does a great one, and yours. I mean, me and you've been friends forever. There's only a few that have really impacted me, but I mean, I like some of the ones that have been done. And I love getting on podcasts about how to write books for young authors that are struggling. I love giving back to the industry. I wrote a book for them how to help them become authors. I sell it for what Amazon charges to print it, so I don't make any money on it. But those things, I feel like giving back time to young authors is a really important thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've put my foot into my mouth a few times.
Yeah, we all have. Let me ask you this: what one thing you wish you'd have known before starting your journey?
I wish I'd put more money aside.
Okay.
I wish I would have saved. I didn't know I needed money until after the second book crashed and nobody paid for anything, and I only made $500, and then wrote the third book and I had to pay it myself. Wow. And then I learned how much money it costs to do a book.
Wow.
So I wish I would have kind of went into it with a little bit more savings.
There you go. More savings, folks. Don't worry. Put more savings aside. Now you kind of touch base on this next question. How important is networking to do for your journey in your entrepreneurial task?
It's very. I mean, I have to listen. I've done a lot of interviews, as you know, but I would say you have to listen to all these stories. Everybody has a story in them.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's worthy of a $30,000 investment. Okay.
Right.
So you have to listen and get the pearls from these stories and decide what, if anything, of that story is marketable that I could turn into a commercial hit. But you have to listen to all those stories because you never know where it's going to come from. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of time to do that. So you have to spend a lot of time networking and listening to other people's stories. And you got to go to some events. But on the other side of the fence, you can also go to too many things for the wrong reason. You got to go where you feel drawn. Author events and stuff like that, because you actually asked this question one time. You said, if you was single and available, where would you go out there to get reconnected with a companion? And we talked about people going out there, and this is not that you weren't advocating for the bar life or anything.
No.
But you asked me what I would do, and I said, well, I'd go to author events. And they go, why? I said, because you walk in, they slap a label on you that says you're a best-selling #1 selling author, and all these little people are there that love you and they want to come up and ask you all these questions. I said, that's where I would go if I was going to do that. Mm-hmm. And I said, I wouldn't go to a bar because that's like kryptonite. You got to deal with all these gym rats and all these people. Right. And I'm not, look at me, I ain't no gym rat. Yeah. So my mind is intellect and storytelling.
Hey, Carmen, thank you so much. Carmen Michelle, thank you so much. Hi, Don. We love to hear all your tips. So thank you for your comment. Ladies and gentlemen, please leave a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do it. Send this out to several people and bless them with it, because the blessing will come back tenfold. Okay. Mr. Payon in Japan, thank you so much, sir. Arigato. All right. I know he's learning Japanese, but he's Spanish and he lives in Japan. He lives in Japan and he's from Mexico. What's that?
What you have to know when you go to Japan, my good friend Satoshi, who lives in Tokyo, taught me this. Hamaki o kai ni ikimasu.
Okay.
I want a cigar.
Okay. Good.
That's all I know.
That's all you know in Japanese. Well, let me ask you a question. What's the best advice you ever received from an entrepreneur or a mentor? What's the best advice you ever received?
James Patterson, one time at an event, he had spoke and I had listened and had been there, and I met him at the bar, and he told me how to set up my own publishing company and told me how he did his. Almost all the big authors have their own publishing companies. He said, quit being afraid of being a hybrid author. He goes, and quit groveling with the big publishing house. They'll come looking for you when you sell. He said, set your own up and then you control your destiny. And that was the best advice that I got, and he's pretty successful.
So did you set yours up?
I did a long time ago, back in 2012, and I've had it ever since. And you know what? When people run down self-published authors, I said, every major author that I know is a self-published author. They sell to the distribution network of other houses.
Okay, good.
So don't let that
stop you. Yeah. Next question. How would you build or maintain a relationship with investors, partners, and collaborators? What's the best way to maintain a relationship with those folks?
That's the hardest conversation I have to have. I had one yet today. People want you to write their story. Well, it costs me money and stuff to write a story and my people's time. And if they're not prepared to write a check for that, even if we do it as we go, they're probably not going to get it done because we can't afford to take a flyer on that kind of risk. So what I do is but I have had people where I've written stories for people and they've become, one of them became a movie, and I'm on the confidentiality thing, but it was a big one and it was done by a really famous actor who is very brave and has a lot of heart. And
I got that. You guys get
so,
it.
And so they will pay you if they really have their heart in it. And they really want their story to be told. They'll pay you to write a great story. You got to write a great story. You keep a great I stay in touch with them every week. I did Ghost that way. Ghost was a partner with his great grandson to write that story of his great grandfather.
I remember that.
And so,
as a matter of fact, my partner Bree Clemens asked me when they were going to walk that red carpet. He asked me today since we're interviewing Don Holbrook. Ask him when we're going to walk that red carpet.
As soon as they get that movie out, we're going to walk it. And I'll tell you what, I think it's going to take people by surprise. It's going to be such a hit. I think it really is going to be.
All right, so see, I threw that in there for you, Mr. Clemens. I knew you were going to ask that question. You asked me earlier today.
We'll be there. You know, if I'm on the red carpet, you're going to be there.
Well, of course we're going to be on there. Yeah. And what's the key turning points and the milestone to help you to scale your business up? What would you say would help anybody out there listening help scale their business up?
Well, you're doing it. My kid said to me a few years ago when I started the publicity for Ghost, I was going to do a traditional publicity route like I've always done. And my kids both said, Dad, stuff is dead, Dad. You got to get on podcasts. Podcasts have big audiences, and you want audience. You don't care if it runs on radio channels. You don't know. You don't have any feedback. You get on podcasts and you start promoting yourself on podcasts. And I would say that switch to this type of publicity and really away from traditional publicity to this has been a huge change for me and a very positive change in my marketplace.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. So, folks, here again, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Hit the like button, leave a comment, hit the bell notification. Like you said, podcast. Let me ask you this question: how would you manage life and balance in your business as it grows? How do you handle life and balance?
You always have to set aside enough money to pay your bills every month. So I always have a reserve to do that. And that allows me not to chase money or to have sales breath.
Okay.
So when I'm dealing with
tell everybody what sales breath means.
That means that people know you're desperate for the deal.
Yeah.
And they know they can get you for less money because they know you just need to do it.
Yeah, need to make a check.
Don't let them think that. Think that you don't need the money.
Yeah.
So if you actually have some money in reserve, you can speak a lot more, forward about stuff. You don't have to be disrespectful, but you're not going to be desperate. You don't want to have desperation on your breath.
Yeah. All right. That's a good question. What's next for your business? What exciting plans you have, projects you're working on? If you could talk about.
I hope that some of these new books I'm bringing out become films, and that we get to walk down a lot of red carpets. I mean,
that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm working on. I'm working on building relationships in Hollywood with producers and directors, and I've got a bunch of them I deal with, and there's a bunch of them interested in things, and some of them are optioned. But they got to go find money for the movie. That's their job, not mine. Yeah. And so I don't know which ones are going to take first. Yeah,
I've been watching them behind the scenes, scrabble with people in Hollywood to get funding and what have you. And I know that's a big part of it. And man, I tell you, I watched them do this. Now, as we know now, the industry is revolving. What do you see for the industry in the next 5 to 10 years? What would you say?
I think woke is dead.
Yeah.
DEI is dead.
Yeah.
I think it's real. I have this conversation almost daily. People say, what about diversity? I said, my books are diverse. They're as diverse as the actual society really is. I have friends from all walks of life, and my books reflect that. I don't think 50% of the people in a story are gay or LGBT or all that stuff. Some of them are. I have friends that are. You have friends that are. But it's not 50%. So you got to keep it real with what we see in society. And you got to be diverse enough to have people of color, of all colors, in the story, because in America, we're a melting pot.
Yeah.
So I tell my stories from our perspective as a melting pot, but not over the top, where it's, woke and it's downtrodden, or it's female versus male and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The whole feminism thing and everything.
Let me ask you the next question. What advice would you give someone who's thinking about starting a business today?
Be realistic. Probably start as a side gig.
Mm-hmm.
So you transition into it. And unless you've been fortunate enough to save enough money to have at least a year to a year and a half's worth of your bills paid, you need 12 to 18 months reserve, what I call them life units, how much it costs me to live per month, put aside. And I try to keep that filled. So I always have a year and a half to pivot.
Right.
You got to be able, this, you got to be able to pivot.
I mean, doing this channel, Mr. Clemens got me to pivot, doing other things, pivot. My whole life I learned how to pivot. Because if you don't know how to pivot, folks, you get left behind, or you become, outdated, or your information is, think about when internet came along. I remember Katie Kirk says, that never happened. And now think about it. I mean, I've seen so many people get left behind because they didn't pivot. So that's a great answer. You got to be able to pivot and put money aside for those downtimes. Go ahead, sir.
And the other thing is, and I tell my boys this: know when to say yes and no. I say no way more. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say no way more than I say yes, because no, I can change my mind. I can say, well, no means not right now.
Right.
Okay. Yes, you're in.
Yeah.
You just committed to something. Okay.
Yeah.
And you got to do it. If you say yes, you got to follow your word to do it.
That's very true.
So, like, if you call me at 10 o'clock at night and I'm in my pajamas and you say, come smoke a cigar, and I'm in bed and you and two of my two musketeers are smoking cigars.
It was actually 9 o'clock, folks. It wasn't 10 o'clock when I called him for that. He didn't come. He was, yeah.
I said, I'm in my pajamas. And I said, no.
He lives like 3 minutes from me.
I know. I know. And I felt guilty, but I was so tired that night.
Oh, he's always tired.
But you got to say, I know, but you got to say no sometimes. And you got to know when to say no and when to say yes. But if you can say no and then you can change your mind.
Yeah.
But if you say yes,
you're committed.
You're committed.
Yeah.
You got to know. So yes is a powerful thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And make your word a commitment. And
Absolutely.
Don't say yes and then change it to no later. Because that's that doesn't stand right. So I know that successful people make decisions fast and they change them rarely. Where most people make decisions slowly and they change them often. So they're fickle. So make decisions fast and stick to it. And other people, like I said, it takes a while. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope this bless you today. Go ahead. In words of closing.
And who you invest your time in is important. Mm-hmm. Because who you spend your time with is who you're going to be known to be like. So you are who you are associated with.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So choose wisely who you're going to spend a lot of time with, because that's how you're going to be seen in society and the world.
Yeah, that's so true.
Pick your friends.
Birds of a feather do flock together, as they say. So that's a worldly kind of saying, but it's so true in today's economy, in today's world. So pick your friends carefully, make decisions fast and wisely, and also stick with your guns. And I want to thank you all from around the world listening in today. We also got a few people that just came in from Ireland. God, thank you, Ireland. Thank you so much for coming in from Ireland. My God, we're all within the Ireland area. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight. Please, if you have not subscribed to the channel. Hit the thumbs up button for notifications. Leave a comment. We just love you tonight. We thank you for joining us today. I hope we got a lot out of it. And this channel, All Things Business, because we cover business entrepreneurs, we cover authors, we cover everything under the sun, because we're here to help you build and also encourage every one of you. Why not you? Because you can. Thank you so much for joining in today. Take care. God bless. And aloha. In Hawaii, a lot of people.
I'm coming this year to Hawaii, so I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Take care. God bless. And as always, we'll see you at the top. Always see you over the top. Don Holbrook, author, screenwriter, publisher.
You did good, man.
You did good. Japan. Thank you, Joe.